Her day started at 5 a.m., not with peace, but with panic. Two uniforms hung by the door, one for her morning shift, the other for her night job. In between, she had just enough time to pick up her daughter from daycare and microwave a meal she'd eat standing. She wasn't living, she was surviving. And just when she thought no one saw her struggle, someone did. What that stranger did next changed her life forever. Before we jump into this incredible story that'll restore your faith in humanity, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Stories like this one remind us that angels walk among us every day. Let's dive in. So let me tell you about Sarah Mitchell. She's in her late 20s, and if you saw her rushing through the hospital cafeteria in Denver, you'd probably think she was just another employee trying to get through her shift. But Sarah's story is so much deeper than that. 3 years ago, her life looked completely different. She was married to David Staff Sergeant David Mitchell, this incredible guy who could make her laugh even on her worst days. They had this beautiful little daughter, Emma, who was just starting to talk. And Sarah? She was halfway through nursing school, living her dream of becoming a trauma nurse. Life was good. Not perfect, but good. They had plans, you know? David would finish his deployment in Afghanistan, Sarah would graduate nursing school, and they'd build this amazing life together. But life had other plans. The knock on the door came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah knew before she even opened it. You hear about military wives talking about that moment, and you think you understand it. But until two uniformed officers are standing on your doorstep with their hats in their hands, you have no idea. David was gone. An IED during a routine patrol. Just like that, Sarah's world collapsed. Suddenly, she's a single mom with a toddler, halfway through a nursing program she can't afford to continue, and drowning in bills she never knew existed. The military provides some support, but it's not enough to cover everything. And when you're grieving and trying to raise a child alone, making smart financial decisions isn't exactly your strong suit. So Sarah made the hardest decision of her life. She dropped out of nursing school, took the first job she could find that would pay the bills. And that's how she ended up working 2 jobs just to keep her head above water. Here's what Sarah's life looked like after David died. Her alarm goes off at 4:30 a.m. not because she's a morning person, but because she has to be at the hospital cafeteria by 5:30. She serves breakfast to doctors and nurses, the same people she once dreamed of working alongside as equals. The irony isn't lost on her. She's surrounded by the profession she loved, but now she's on the other side of the serving counter. She watches nurses rush by during their breaks, and there's this constant ache in her chest. What if, you know? Her shift ends at 2 p.m., and then it's a race against time. Pick up Emma from daycare, maybe grab something to eat if she's lucky, then get ready for job number 2. From 6 p.m. to midnight, she cleans office buildings downtown, vacuuming carpets, emptying trash, scrubbing bathrooms that executive types leave messy without a second thought. By the time she gets home, Emma's already asleep with the babysitter. Sarah gets maybe 4 hours of sleep before it starts all over again. And the applications, God. The applications. Every week, Sarah applies for better jobs. Anything with normal hours, decent pay, maybe even benefits. But every single listing has the same requirement: bachelor's degree required, or RN license preferred. Each rejection email is like a reminder that she's trapped. The degree she was so close to finishing might as well be on the moon now. There's no time to go back to school, no money for tuition, and definitely no energy left at the end of the day. Emma starts noticing things that kids shouldn't have to notice. "Mommy, why are you always tired?" she asks one morning, and Sarah's heart just breaks. She's trying so hard to shield her daughter from their struggles, but 5-year-olds are smarter than we give them credit for. Sarah starts skipping meals to make sure there's enough food for Emma. When her car breaks down, she doesn't get it fixed. She takes the bus and tells Emma it's an adventure. Every day is about survival, and every night is filled with this crushing doubt about whether she's strong enough to keep going. Then something interesting starts happening at the cafeteria. There's this older gentleman who begins coming in regularly, always orders the same thing, always sits at the same table by the window. He's probably in his 60s, well-dressed but not flashy. and there's something about him that's just calming. He's polite to everyone, but he seems to really notice Sarah. Not in a creepy way, more like he actually sees her as a person, not just the woman behind the counter. He tips generously, which Sarah appreciates more than he probably knows. And he always has this warm smile that feels genuine. Most customers are in a hurry, barely making eye contact. But this guy, Dr. Marcus Dean, though Sarah doesn't know his name yet, he actually talks to her, asks how her day is going, comments on the weather, makes these little observations that show he's actually paying attention. One afternoon, after he's been coming in for maybe 3 weeks, he says something that stops Sarah in her tracks. "You seem really sharp. Have you ever thought about working in healthcare?" Sarah almost laughs, but something in his tone tells her he's not making small talk. So she finds herself opening up to this stranger in a way she hasn't with anyone in months. "I was actually in nursing school," she admits, wiping down the counter so she doesn't have to make eye contact. Before everything happened. I had to drop out after my husband died. Life kind of moved faster than I could keep up with." Dr. Dean nods, and there's this understanding in his eyes that tells Sarah he's not just being polite. He doesn't push for details, doesn't offer empty platitudes about everything happening for a reason. He just says, "I'm sorry for your loss," and means it. Then he thanks her for the food and leaves, just like always. Sarah figures it was just a moment of connection between strangers, nothing more. She's learned not to expect too much from people's kindness. But Dr. Dean? He's about to prove her wrong in the most incredible way. A week later, Sarah gets a call that makes her stomach drop. It's from the hospital administration office, asking her to come in for a meeting. Her first thought is that she's in trouble. Maybe someone complained about the service, or they're cutting cafeteria staff, or she accidentally broke some rule she didn't know existed. She spends the entire bus ride to the meeting convinced she's about to lose one of her 2 jobs. Emma's daycare payment is due next week, and if she loses this income, she doesn't know what she'll do. So when she walks into that administrative office, she's already preparing herself for the worst. But instead of a termination notice, the woman behind the desk slides a folder across to her with a smile. "Miss Mitchell," she says, "someone has made an anonymous donation on your behalf. It's been specifically designated for your education." Sarah stares at the papers, not understanding. The numbers don't make sense at first. It's enough money to cover tuition, fees, books, even childcare assistance while she's in class. It's enough to finish nursing school. I don't understand," Sarah says, "because this feels like some kind of mistake." "Who would? I mean, I didn't apply for any scholarships or—" "The donor wishes to remain anonymous," the woman explains, "but they left this for you." She hands Sarah an envelope with her name, written in careful handwriting. Inside is a letter that's about to change everything she thought she knew about kindness. Sarah's hands are shaking as she unfolds the letter. It's handwritten on simple stationery, and the words are so unexpected that she has to read it twice to believe it's real. The letter is from Dr. Marcus Dean, the man from the cafeteria. But he's not just any customer. He's a retired trauma surgeon who spent 30 years saving lives in emergency rooms. And the reason he's helping Sarah has everything to do with a promise he made to someone he loved. In the letter, he explains that his wife, Patricia, was a trauma nurse. They worked together for over 20 years, and she was the love of his life. 2 years ago, she lost her battle with cancer. But before she died, she made him promise something. "If you ever meet a woman who reminds you of me," she told him, "someone who's strong and quiet and determined, but maybe needs a little help to reach her potential, you help her. Don't let talent go to waste because of circumstances." Dr. Dean had been looking for the right person to honor that promise, and when Sarah told him about her nursing school dreams, something clicked. He did a little research, verified her enrollment records, and realized she'd been an excellent student before life derailed her plans. The letter continues. "You reminded me of Patricia in ways you'll probably never know. The way you carry yourself despite obvious exhaustion. The kindness you show to everyone, even when you're clearly struggling. The intelligence in your eyes that says you're capable of so much more than serving coffee." He ends with, "This isn't charity, Sarah. This is an investment in someone who was already doing the impossible. I'm just giving you a bridge to cross over to where you belong. Sarah sits in that administrative office, tears streaming down her face, holding a letter from a man who saw potential in her when she couldn't see it in herself. Re-enrolling in nursing school is terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Sarah hasn't been in a classroom in 3 years, and she's convinced she's forgotten everything she learned. But as soon as she sits down in that first anatomy lecture, something awakens in her that's been dormant for too long. She's not the same student she was before David died. She's harder now, more focused, with a different kind of motivation. Every textbook she opens, every exam she studies for, every clinical rotation she completes, it's not just about getting a degree. It's about honoring the investment Dr. Dean made in her, the promise his wife wanted him to keep, and the future she's building for Emma. The schedule is brutal. She still works part-time at the cafeteria, partly for the income, partly because she's not ready to completely let go of the job that kept her afloat. But now she also has classes, study groups, clinical rotations, and somehow she's managing to be a mom in between all of it. Emma becomes her study buddy. While Sarah reviews pharmacology flashcards, Emma sits beside her with her coloring books, studying too. Sometimes Sarah catches her daughter pretending to take a patient's temperature with her toy stethoscope, and her heart just swells with pride and hope. During her clinical rotations, something beautiful happens. Sarah discovers she has this natural instinct for trauma care. Maybe it's because she's experienced her own kind of trauma, but she has this way of staying calm under pressure, of connecting with patients who are scared and vulnerable. Her supervising nurses start taking notice. They see her skill, her empathy, her work ethic. Nobody knows the full story of how she got there. Sarah doesn't advertise the scholarship or talk about Dr. Dean. She just proves, shift after shift, that she belongs there. Dr. Dean checks in occasionally, but never intrusively. Sometimes she'll see him in the cafeteria, and he'll give her this encouraging nod. Once, during her final semester, he stops by her table in the library where she's studying with Emma. "How's it going?" he asks simply. "It's hard," Sarah admits. "But it's good hard, you know." He smiles and says something that sticks with her. "You were already doing the impossible, Sarah. I just gave you a bridge. The walking across it, that's all you." Graduation day arrives faster than Sarah expected. She's walking across that stage in her cap and gown, and for a moment, she wishes David could see this. But then she looks out into the audience and sees Emma in the front row, holding up a handmade sign that says, "Go Nurse Mommy," in crayon letters. And there, standing quietly at the back of the auditorium, is Dr. Dean. He doesn't need to say anything. The pride in his eyes says everything. Sarah graduated summa cum laude. But more than that, she graduated as someone completely transformed not just by education, but by the kindness of a stranger who saw her worth when she couldn't see it herself. Today, Sarah works as a trauma nurse in the same hospital where she once served coffee. Every shift, she sees the job not just as a profession, but as a calling. She understands what it means to fight for your life in a different way than most people, and that makes her incredibly good at helping others fight for theirs. But here's the most beautiful part of this story. Sarah didn't just receive kindness, she multiplied it. With some help from Dr. Dean and other donors, she started a small scholarship fund called the Mitchell-Dean Foundation. It's specifically for single mothers who want to return to school but can't afford it. The first recipient? A young mom who worked in the very same hospital cafeteria where Sarah's journey began. Full circle, but just the beginning. Sarah says that David would be proud not just of the nurse she became, but of the way she chose to honor his memory by helping others rebuild their lives. And Dr. Dean's wife, Patricia? Her dying wish is living on in ways she never could have imagined. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Share this with someone who might need to hear that their circumstances don't define their destiny. Sometimes we're so focused on our own struggles that we forget to look around and see who might need a bridge. And sometimes, when we're drowning, we forget that help might come from the most unexpected places. Dr. Dean saw potential where Sarah saw only exhaustion. Sarah turned a second chance into a way to give others second chances. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.